I just got back from a 2-week vacation. It was a great time, but rather than not making any progress here on the channel, I decided to supplement my traditional PC gaming with something I could do on the go, mobile gaming. And so, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp became my game of choice for complementing long bouts of beach relaxation. It was a perfect little time waster, but now that I'm back home and can reflect on my time spent with the game and my notes, let's see what this game is all about. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp released on iOS and Android back in October 2017, and Nintendo correctly advertised it as a free-to-start game. I think that's partially what turned me off of the game originally. I played for a day or two at launch, hoping to see if a franchise that I hold so closely to my heart would manage to break the mold of mobile gaming and make something really special. And the short version is, it didn't. Pocket Camp is a mobile game through and through, and I mean that largely in the worst way possible. It does all of the mobile things that makes gamers revile the platform so much. A premium cash shop, timers, the ability to spend real-world currency to speed up said timers, and perhaps most insidious of all is how heavily it showers you with premium currency for free for the first couple of days to get you used to the luxury of wielding these so-called leaf tickets, only for that well to slowly but surely dry up the longer you play. I was so turned off from all these systems that I dropped the game and didn't return until almost 2 years later. But I'm not here to talk about how I felt about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp in 2017. I'm here to talk about how I feel about Animal Crossing Pocket Camp in the current day. The game has benefited a lot from updates and content additions, and perhaps more importantly, what aided my enjoyment of the game the most was the new mindset that 2 years passing has granted me. You see, my second time going into Pocket Camp, I didn't have expectations of the game somehow ascending above the usual mobile downfalls. I knew exactly what it was on my revisit, and tackled it from that angle, and my thoughts are as follows. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is a pretty bad Animal Crossing game, but a damn good mobile game. So what do you do in Pocket Camp? Well, like most mobile games, this game operates on a timer. There are a certain amount of tasks that you're allowed to do in the allotted time. Completing them raises some meters and levels, and then you wait until the timer resets so you can do it again. More specifically in Pocket Camp's case, the most important timer is 3 hours long. Here's how it works. The pitch of the game is that you're a camper. There is a centralized campground that belongs to you, and you can decorate it with all the items and furniture that you collect over time. At this camp, you can invite animals that you have formerly befriended. How do you befriend animals, you ask? Well, outside of the central campground, there are a few different zones, a beach, a waterfall, etc. A random villager will populate each of these zones once every 3 hours. By talking to this villager, you will increase your friendship level with them. They also have requests to obtain certain collectible items, and collecting these items for them will also increase said friendship level, as well as having them fork over a few different crafting materials in exchange for your service. Raising the animal to a certain friendship level is the first condition required to have them invited to your campground. The second condition is to furnish the campground with a couple of items that they like. The furniture can be built with the crafting materials that they hand over to you upon fulfilling their requests. And so with these mechanics, you can kind of see the gameplay loop start to form. Open up the app, go collect some items that the campers will need, talk to the campers and exchange said items for crafting materials and friendship points, then use those crafting materials to craft furniture. There are a few other systems going on here that I'm glossing over, but just know that almost everything serves a dual purpose, and almost every system feeds into another. The same furniture you use to invite new campers can also be used to decorate your RV and your cabin, as well as being used in Happy Home Academy challenges to prove just how great of a collecting job you've done. These challenges then reward you with even more crafting items, so you can craft even more furniture. Crafting is somewhat of a central pillar here, as you can see, so it's no surprise the next mainline Animal Crossing is borrowing a bit of this concept, albeit with probably a lot less waiting. The crafting is quite simple. Usually you just need 2 to 3 different materials and a few hours to make a given piece of furniture. A lot of the other things that you do in Pocket Camp are mechanics returning from older games. Staple mechanics are back, including but not limited to fishing, catching bugs, furnishing your room, buying items from a daily restocked shop, and of course going into ever-increasing debt to increase the size of your RV. Where the game starts to get into murky waters is where it trades some of its soul for convenience. When you played Animal Crossing on the GameCube, why did you walk up to your fellow villagers and talk to them? Was it in hopes of getting a special item? Maybe they had a task for you? Maybe you just wanted to talk to them and see what they had to say. There were a ton of different personalities that these villagers had, and a ton of different outcomes to your conversations. But I think the most important note is that there was no straightforward exchange of resources behind every conversation. In Pocket Camp, there is but a single reason to talk to your villagers, and that's to benefit your resources. You exchange items with them to keep your crafting material provisions stocked high and keep those friendship levels flowing. Friendship levels, I think, are really the crux of the problem I'm facing, and I'm really conflicted about them. I get why they're there, and frankly, I think that tying your character's level ups to becoming friends with as many people as possible is a really cute and very Animal Crossing appropriate idea on the surface. It makes it really easy and convenient to see who your highest level friends are and what you need to do to increase those relationships further. But for all that this system adds, what's lost here is too great. Your friendship with your campers is tied to a number. You can chart or graph out how much friendship you need to gain certain perks with your fellow villagers. There's a cold and unfeeling quid pro quo that drives all of the conversations in Pocket Camp, and anyone who's ever had a friend knows this isn't what friendship is about at all. While I estimate to some extent there were some similar meters going on in the background of all the prior games, surfacing that information and allowing the players to see the gears turning causes your relationships with the campers to lose some of their magic. There's a skip conversation toggle that you can check in the game that will circumvent any dialogue that the animal has to say while you're talking to them, and instead just rushes right to the exchange of items. And I think the fact that I had this toggled most of the time after my first few hours speaks volumes about just how transactional and boring the conversations really are. Friendship levels, I think, are a pretty good summary of what's going on here. All of the things that you normally did in Animal Crossing games of old now have meters associated with them, a bar that you will ever want to increase. Sure, it's nice to see your improvement tied to a number, but such an RPG-like system in what's supposed to be a slice-of-life simulator like Animal Crossing really rubbed me the wrong way. This isn't Animal Crossing anymore. It sure looks like Animal Crossing, it sure sounds like Animal Crossing, but the motivators and systems underneath turn it into a much different game. And it's that exact sentiment that highlights how I gathered the most enjoyment out of Pocket Camp. I stopped treating it as a slice-of-life game. I stopped treating it as the escapist fantasy world where I could form friendships and lose myself. I treated it almost like you would a min-maxing strategy game, a game of resource and time management, a game of numbers and math, and that was a pretty damn good time. I would play on the dot every 3 hours to harvest all the materials I needed, see what short and long-term goals I had to complete, whether those be daily challenges or seasonal events, and prioritized all my crafting to ensure that I was able to complete every challenge I could. Without dropping any cash on the game, I wasn't able to collect 100% of the game's most sought after items in my time, but proper resource allocation allowed me to get more than you'd think. I mentioned before that the initial flurry of the game's premium currency, leaf tickets, eventually slows down, but it's worth noting that it doesn't ever stop completely. Without ever spending a dime on the game, you can continuously earn premium currency just at an incredibly slow rate. A rate so slow that players will eventually come to the conclusion that their time is more valuable than the rate of acquisition and may pay up with some of their hard-earned money. That is the idea, after all. But for all its faults, I still like Pocket Camp. It's a good game, just not the game I wanted it to be when I first played it. It's a shame that a lot of the enjoyment here is held hostage by the very platform it's on. I'd love to see a microtransaction-less version of the game find its way to the Apple Arcade, but I'm pessimistic in that idea ever coming to fruition. I plan on continuing to gain levels, optimize my crafting pipeline, and attract more campers to my campsite for at least another few weeks. It may have all the same guts as a lot of other mobile games, but Pocket Camp does it all with a level of presentation and polish that just puts it above a lot of its competitors in a way that kept me checking on my phone every 3 hours. Come to Pocket Camp for what it is, and not what it's not, and it'll almost certainly get its hooks in you. Just try not to let those hooks turn into any unhealthy spending habits.